Hi friends, it's Becky and I want to share a little tutorial. We're just going to do a jewelry set, necklace and earrings using some beads from the Sweet Peach Sam's Bead Box. This is a monthly bead subscription that you can get from Sam's Bead Shop. It is beautifully curated every month to some of the funnest themes. This one was Sweet Peach, and we had some accent contrast tones with these mint color beads that came in here. If you want to see the unboxing for it, I'll link that in the description below. Also, a reminder, if you want to sign up for Sam's Bead Box, you have until the 9th of the month to sign up for that month's box. So you have until the 9th of July to sign up for the July box. This is the June box. And so we're going to be making some stuff with this. I have these mint and gold leaf beads. We've got mint and gold drop beads, mint and gold sun coin bead. And these are all going to be part of both the necklace and the earrings, except for this. This won't be part of the earrings or these, but these will. And also these, and maybe these. Anyway, and then we have these lentil beads that have peach and crystal swirl in that glass. Some of them are clearer than others. It's really fun having that swirl in there. And then we've got some peach lined crystal fire polish beads. And these are going to be some of the beads that we use both for the necklace and the earrings. The necklace is going to be strung on some beading wire. Just choosing this nice warm brown color, the Butterscotch Imperial Topaz color from Softflex. And I'm also going to be extending what we're doing using some of these 80 seed beads. This is a bead mix that Rachel came up to go with this. It was sold separately as a separate purchase from the bead subscription, but I always get it every month because I love the bead mixes that she puts together. I am also going to be using some 22 gauge wire for a little bit of wire work as we make our focal. And from my stash, I've got some closures, some jump rings, and a lobster clasp, and I've got some ear wires that I made ahead of time. For tools, I'm going to be using these 4. We've got a chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, some flush cutters, and my favorite way of crimping is using the magical crimper, so I'm going to be using this. If you have a different style of crimping that you like to use, you can use those if you're following along with me. I've also got some 2x2 crimp tubes because that is what works best with that crimper. All right, let's move some of these guys out of the way and work on making our focal. Just gonna get a couple of these beads out of the way, set aside enough of some of these for a set of earrings. So that we've got those. That's gonna be necklace. And I need 4 of these for my focal and 3 of these. All right, 1 of those. So we need the main focal bead. We need 4 of the you know what they're called, the lentils, 3 of the leaf beads, and 1 of the crystal peach line beads. So we're gonna have all of those together. I may need some of these. I'm mostly going to be picking out some of the peach colored beads when I do this, so I'm just going to spread those out so they are available. And I'm going to take my wire, and while it's still on the spool, I'm just going to warm it up with my fingers. If you curve it one direction then curve it the next, it helps work out some of the kinks in the wire, and it helps to straighten it out. And I want about 8 inches of wire. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. It'll also help so it doesn't swing around as much and get into these seed beans like that. That was a little silly. All right. On this wire, I am going to string one of my lentil beads, one leaf bead, another lentil, leaf, basically just alternating these beads so that I have a lentil on each side, each end, and then a leaf bead in between them. So that I have all 4 of these on here, like that. And now I'm not moving down to the center. I'm going to move closer to the edge. I want to leave enough of this to be able to do a wrap around this side though, so it's about 2/3 of the way down. But I am going to start making a sort of V shape with it right here where this leaf is. I'm just going to push these wires up like that and making a V shape, and then bend these. I'm holding onto this lentil and sort of bending them together through that leaf bead. I'm going to do the same on the other side because I want them to come together like this to make a bit of a crisscrossy shape. And there's a little bit of space here between where they're going to meet and where they're not. So I'm just going to pop an 8/0 on that side and another one on this side just to help fill in that space a little bit more. And then right where they meet for this, I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to grasp the wire and give it a little bend so that the wire goes straight-ish up. And then pinch my lentils and this whole little design here while I pull this wire around that bent wire there a couple of times. I am giving myself a bit of a fat wrap down here. And adjusting these to make them a little bit smoother. And now I'm going to snip my excess wire from there. And I'm going to put another of these. These are the peach-lined crystal AB beads that are in the mix. That's what I'm using on this. Putting one of those on there first. Then my coin bead, like that. We're going to pop this guy on right there at the top. And I'm going to make a loop at the top by bending the wire back away from me so that there's some space right here. And that way I can. I'm going to make a fairly small loop because I'm going to be stringing it, and I would like it to stay where it's at between some of these beads as I'm stringing. All right, so now I'm going to wrap the wire around that neck that I left from my wrapped loop. I'm going to make sure that this loop is fun. And there we go, we've got our little focal for the necklace. You know, if you don't have like a metal focal or some sort of gemstone or something, you can always make one with some wire and some beads. Just have some fun with it. Do geometric shapes or something like that. All right, so we've got that focal created. Let's lay out our beads a little bit and see where we're at. I am going to actually be doing something a little bit different for the earring part, because these are very spinny, but that's okay. We are going to want some more of these. And I'm going to be using the these leaf beads in the earrings that I'm going to make. But I want these guys here to be part of the strung section, and definitely these guys. All right. All right. Don't know if I'll need all of those. I definitely am going to need some more of these. One, two, three, four. Five, six. Trying to divide these up. 2, 3, 2, 3. Okay, so there's 8 of those. So how about if we go there? Two, three, like that. Okay, I think that's going to be pretty good for a necklace. All right. What a nice, since I don't know exactly how long it will be till after I've strung it, I'm going to start from the middle and leave this on the spool, and then we'll come back and either add more or probably just leave it the way it is, most likely. But I am going to be adding an 8 in between each of these beads as a little spacer as we string these along. This is such a pretty box. I did already do another tutorial with some of the beads that came in the box. There was that strawberry quartz butterfly. I will put a link to that one in the description too. I also used some seed beads in that tutorial, and that was a lot of fun to put together. But there's a lot that you can do with one of these boxes. I like turning melon, or especially these melon drops, I like turning them in opposite directions in pairs when I'm stringing, just so that they give a little bit of a fun shape to the bead strand, so that it's, you know, going in and out, or adding a little bit of symmetry right here in this little bit of the strand. I like being able to do that. It is fun. Alright, let me check on the length as soon as I've got this last little repeat strung. Alright. Feels like a good length for me. I do like a shorter necklace. You could make this longer by increasing the amount of seed beads between each of these. I think 3 would be a great amount for a longer necklace. And by longer, I mean something that doesn't just fall at the clavicle, something that hangs a little bit further down. But that would be a good way to add some length to this. So what I'm going to do is take this end right there, using a bead stopper to keep it from sliding off. I want to make sure that I've got enough room for crimping, and I'm just going to do a real quick guesstimate for stringing up the other side. So I can snip that off, get my focal strung on. Like that. And then start picking up some of these beads going up the other side. I think I may have missed. I did. I heard you guys. Just kidding. Sometimes my friends like to tell me, even though I can't hear them, that I missed a bead. And so I'm just going to unstring this. I had an extra seed bead too. And we will just do that again without missing that extra bead. There we go. Both of those on either side. And now I can just string along here exactly in that order. Compare it with the other side. Okay. Now, Ado, peach lime crystal, Ado, lentil, Ado, peach lime crystal, and Ado. There we go. That was that next section. Sometimes I get distracted or I forget what comes next, and I've already got an Ado, so I don't need to pick another one of those yet. I almost did the same thing that I did before. These are super cute. I will eventually find the hole. I promise. This next little bit. It's a pretty fun amount. Sometimes the beads just want to be shiny and sparkly and juicy. I think that is the feeling that I get. Juicy peach. When I look at these crystal and peach swirl beads, it's like liquid, you know? Peach juice, something like that. Did I tell y'all after I unboxed this, I went and got some peaches. They were not in season yet, but they were pretty close to it. But I think they'd been picked before they were really ready. So I'm going to need to do some more peaches that were picked a little closer to their ripeness, so I can have another peach cobbler here at the house. There we go. That's a pretty fun. I like it. I like it a lot. I love my little focal. It's gonna be fun. Fun to wear. All right, let's move these guys out of the way a little bit. And I need to crimp. That's right, I'm gonna make a loop with my wire, and then I'll be attaching my closures to the loop using the jump rings. And I'm going to be using, again, these 2x2 crimp tubes to make my loop. And the reason I like to use a magical crimper is it leaves a nice ball of crimp so that I don't have to add a crimp cover to it. It just makes it easy when you are creating your jewelry. You can use a different type of crimping method, but if you do, I would suggest using a crimp cover, unless it's one of those like stop it crimps, the ones with that are actually like a little bead that you push the little lever in on. I still can't get those to work quite right though, so I am still going with my magical crimpers. So after I've bent the wire back through the crimp here on the end, I'm going to take that crimp and I'm going to center it right here in this concavity. And I'm going to make sure it's good and centered before I do my initial squeeze. And then once it is, I give it a squeeze. It doesn't have to be a really big squeeze. And it smushes down just the corners of that crimp. It is not finished crimping. This will not hold. But when I turn it at a different angle, 90 degrees first of all, give it another squeeze, and then turn it at another angle, give it a squeeze, and just keep going all around from different angles. You want to turn it and then squeeze. Don't turn it while it's being held. But that will smooth out all of those corners and leave me with a nice little ball of crimp that is very secure. And that is what it looks like on the end. Alright, so I'm going to do the next one. And when I do the next one, I don't want my necklace to be stiff. So I'm going to take up some of the slack on the wire by curving it, the wire, while I've got these beads on. And then, just like with the other, I'm going to put my wire back through the crimp in order to form a loop. Once I've got a good loop, I like to make sure that there's a little bit of space. If I need to, I'll use my fingernail just to wiggle between it. But as long as there's a little bit of space between that last bead and the crimp, it means I can center that crimp with my crimper without accidentally crushing that bead. And then it also won't be crimped too tight. So I do the ravioli and then we smush it all around. And we've got ourselves a nice little crimp on this end too. And I do like to, I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers, and to hold the other end of the crimp, you can get another set of pliers, or since there's a nice flat tip to here, I can hold on to the jump ring with those pliers while I twist it with my chain nose pliers. I like to have my thing that requires dexterity, the lobster clasp, on the right side of my necklace. This doesn't have a right or wrong side on my focal, so this is basically what's going to be deciding which side is right and wrong. It is completely reversible, but it looks the same on both sides. This is just for my ease because I am not that dexterous with my right or with my left hand. Just with my right to be able to put that on without assistance. And I'm just going to put a jump ring on this loop over here so there's something for the lobster clasp to hold on to that's not this loop. It could connect to the loop and it's not a big problem. I've done that plenty of times before, just left a loop for the jump ring, or the lobster clasp. But I do like having a jump ring for it to connect to, because that's one less thing, you know, rubbing against the wire. Because while this is very durable wire, you know, eventually it will need a little bit more. So there's my necklace, my sweet peach, getting into the mint and gold colors with that. So I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to pull out the beads that I'm using for my earrings. And for these, I'm going to make one with y'all, and then I'll make the second on my own, just because. Alright, so instead of the lentil beads being between the leaf beads on this design, I'm going to have these silver lined or these peach lined guys, and then we're just going to add a few of these 8-0 seed beads. I keep wanting to call them 11-0s, but that's not what size they are. My brain is just being weird, giving me the wrong side or size. Words. Okay, so I'm going to use some 22 gauge wire again. And for this, it doesn't need to be as large as that because we don't need to also be adding enough length to add this guy to it. We're just going to be making a loop, and the loop will be smaller because I'm using smaller beads. So about 4 inches will do. And for this, I am going to make myself a little loop on one end using the round nose pliers about 1.5 inches away from the end. I'm going to bend that away from me and then push the wire on the short side up over the top of my round nose pliers. Open up the jaw on my round nose pliers and rotate that bottom one up to the top. And now I've got myself a little loop that I can wrap. And I'm just going to do a couple quick wraps. Doesn't need to be a lot. And right next to that loop, I'm going to bend the wire over that way and pick up 3 8-0 seed beads, 1 of the crystalline beads, or the peach line beads, and another 8-0. So I've got 3 8-0s, the fire polish, and an 8-0. Then we're going to put on the leaf, a fire polish bead, the leaf, fire polish bead, the leaf, fire polish bead, an 8-0, and then the fire polish bead, and then 3 more 8-0s, not 11-0s. Why do I keep thinking that's what that is? That's weird. All right, so you see where I had the bend and how this loop is pointing towards me as I'm holding this. I'm going to pinch this and then stick my finger right here on this leaf bead and start bending around towards my loop here. I'm going to bend that in. And we'll bend that one in too. You can massage this a little bit as you go, but I definitely want to take the end of this wire and go around this part here until it meets up with the other loop. And give this a snip. I'm going to tuck the end of my wire in real quick. Give that loop a little smush. Make sure that we are round-ish for that, and add an ear wire. That is the earring that I would wear with this as the focal. It's a little It's a little softer in its approach. Ooh, I love it actually. No, I've already done this. I was like, I kind of like it better than the one with the lentils, but no, I'm not switching things up right now. They will work together. They don't have to be matchy-matchy. We can have different things with them. But yeah, these peach line beads were some of my favorites in the entire box. Absolutely adore them. Love, love, love them. I have a coupon code you can use if you want to subscribe to Sam's Bead Box. It'll give you $5 off your first month's subscription. And again, like I said, you have until the 9th of the month to sign up for that month's box. So I'll put those links in the description below, as well as the link to the other necklace that I made and my unboxing. Until next time, my friends, happy beading!